Notice that the one head of state, head of government around the world who has spoken up sharply against the Obama hysteria, a clear, bright warning, comes from Russian President Medvedev and his associate, Prime Minister Putin of Russia. And they are simply saying, don't put your missiles into Poland. Don't start the Polish missile crisis. It is going to be similar to the Cuban missile crisis. It is a threat to peace and security in the world. We don't need it. We don't need the radar to go into the Czech Republic. We don't need the missiles to go into Poland. This is an incalculable folly. If Obama wants to prove his goodwill, if he wants to show that he represents hope and change, I would recommend that he do the following. He has expressed some caveats, maybe some skepticism about this Polish missile deployment and the Czech phased array early warning radar. Why don't we just cancel those, Barkey? Why don't we just say we will not have missiles in Poland, we will not have this modern radar put into the Czech Republic? Let's avoid a needless international confrontation. Let us tell Vice President-elect Biden, if that's really what he is, to stop his insane, hysterical calls for an invasion of Sudan, the biggest country in Africa, the country which, when imperialist armies go there, they often don't come back. You remember that movie about General Gordon of the British at Khartoum and all the trouble that he had, never got out of there, as it turned out. We don't want to extend war to an entirely new continent. We don't need to have Africa in flames now that the Middle East is in flames. Let us turn away from the path of confrontation. Naturally, Obama is committed to escalating the Afghan war. Biden has been leading the charge for the attack on Sudan. I don't believe there will be an attack on Iran. I'll be surprised if that comes about. I think that the Obama-Brzezinski strategy will be to try to turn Iran against Russia and against other countries, to use them as a pawn rather than to make them into the target of confrontation. Totally different approach. The other question is Pakistan. Obama, during the campaign, in particular in Chicago in July of last year, was the first to demand a reckless and irresponsible unilateral policy of bombing the hell out of northwest Pakistan. That is now reality. The goal of that, of course, is not any nonsense about Al-Qaeda, bin Laden, the war on terror, or any of this foolish, discredited mythology. It is for the purpose of breaking up Pakistan. Instead of having one Pakistan, they'd like to have 5 or 6. Instead of dealing with a single government in Islamabad armed with nuclear weapons, with medium-range nuclear missiles of some sort to deliver them, they want to have 4 or 5 different micro-states or mini-states. That's the terminology that Zbigniew Brzezinski likes to use in his books. We'd be dealing with Waziristan, Pashtunistan, Baluchistan, Sindh, and other micro-states or mini-states. None of those would be big enough to stand up to ExxonMobil or J.P. Morgan Chase. So this is now the task. In terms of the time frame, we've got two kinds of time frames we can look at. One is the time between, well, actually 3 then, between now and the election. We've got the assembling of the new regime, right, the transition. We've already got one sign. Obama has now named Rahm Emmanuel, a corrupt political hack, congressman from Chicago, veteran of the Clinton White House. Rahm Emmanuel will be the new White House chief of staff. This is about as bad as it could be. Rahm Emmanuel was on the dark side of the Clinton White House. He is a member of the Illinois Bipartisan Combine. That means the joint operation by Republicans and Democrats to loot the people of Chicago, to loot the state of Illinois. This is what went on. This is the thing that Barkey comes out of. Obama is somebody who has swum and cavorted in the cesspool of filth, corruption, and graft of the Illinois Bipartisan Combine. Rahm Emmanuel is also somebody who spent the first Gulf War as a volunteer for the Israeli Defense Force. This is not a good choice. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to the Alex Jones program. This is Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C., sitting in as guest host this afternoon for Alex. Again, what I'm proposing now is political mobilization during the time of the transition, during the first 100 days, and essentially for the next 2 years. There will be a congressional election in 2 years if the institutional arrangements remain as they have been, right? That's been fairly reliable in American history. We've had these congressional elections, the midterm elections, where you'll be able to register your opinions about this new regime. So we've got the transition. We've got the first very bad sign, Rahm Emmanuel as White House Chief of Staff, a corrupt member of the Illinois Bipartisan Combine. That is the area otherwise inhabited by such figures as Tony Rezko, Nadkami Auchi, Al-Samari, and others, along with Janulius and Tony Jaws, Gorengo, and all the rest of them. The cesspool of corruption in which Obama has been bathing and cavorting and frolicking during his entire career. Multi-ethnic corruption. There's all kinds of ethnic groups in it, but it's the Illinois Bipartisan Combine. Republicans and Democrats can join to loot the people of Illinois. That seems to be the kind of bipartisanship that Obama likes best. There will be a fight about other appointments, right? The Plum Book comes out. For example, who's going to be Secretary of State? Will it be the effete snob John Kerry, Senator Kerry of Massachusetts, with his wife, whose parents were servants of the Portuguese fascist dictatorship of Salazar, with his wife, Teresa Heinz Kerry, who comes from the heart of the foundation world, which is otherwise the world that has produced Obama, the product of the Ford Foundation, the Gamaliel Foundation, the Woods Fund, the Joyce Foundation, the Annenberg Foundation, and his close friend Bernardine Dorn gets her money from the MacArthur Foundation. The evil social engineering, the manipulation, the fragmentation, the divide and conquer strategies of these foundations. Anyway, will it be Kerry or will it be Richard Holbrooke, the mad bomber of Serbia in 1999, the Russophobe, the Russia hater who decided to make a terrible example of Serbia with 60 to 70 days of bombing in the spring of 1999 in order to show the Russians the true brutality of U.S. and British imperialism. It looks like a fight between Holbrooke and Kerry for Secretary of State. Wesley Clark, the other mad bomber of Serbia back in 1999, who blocked with Tony Blair against his own government to try to get a land invasion, a ground troop invasion of Serbia, which would have been an unexampled bloodbath. Wesley Clark may be in the running, but his chemistry with Barkey doesn't seem to be too good. So you'll have all kinds of struggles about these appointments, and perhaps during this time already we'll begin to see the falling out among thieves. In other words, the Obama corruption conveyance that they have all jumped onto, people like David Wilhelm out there in Illinois, that this will prove to be not enough. In other words, there's not enough goodies to go around for all of the various thugs and goons who have jumped on the Barkey bandwagon. So we'll see some of that. Then we'll get into the 100 days. There will obviously be an attempt to try to stage unprecedented hysteria. We've got to be ready for that, and then we've got to be ready to hold out for 2 years until the next election. Back in a minute. welcome back. This is the Alex Jones program, but I'm Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C., sitting in for Alex this afternoon as guest host. And we've obviously got a lot to cover. The new regime, we've had the Obamageddon. Obamageddon has occurred, and we're still standing, and we still intend to resist the attempt to transform the U.S. economy and institutions in what can only be called a fascist, neo-fascist, fascistoid, social fascist direction. Might as well call it a plain old fascist direction. Notice that the American people are still majority anti-fascist. 48%, even according to the official statistics,